Hello, thank you for being in a new video. This time I have an unboxing of the OPPO Reno12 5G. Let's get started. Well, this device has just arrived in Mexico along with his brother, the OPPO Reno12 F5G, but soon we will have the unboxing of this one. For now, let's focus on the protagonist of the party, which in fact has raised its price with respect to the last generation, and it is something that I personally did not like. In Mexico, it has been announced at a price of 11,999 pesos. That is approximately $630, although remember that the prices here are not the same as there. Generally in Mexico, prices are much higher, but OPPO seems to have gone crazy. At this price, it gets to compete in much bigger leagues than it is entitled to, but that has been the brand's decision. Usually OPPO is not known for giving competitive prices, but in this case, it has gone to a very high limit, so we could consider it a very, very expensive brand. Let's take the device out of its box so we can get to know it. And the first thing we find, as you realize, is the device debuting an interesting design. I like the design of the cover, but I'm not so fond of the design of the camera module. As usual, we have the special guest here, the last generation, so you can see the differences. I used to like how the pattern looked, but it had a very reflective finish that made you not enjoy that design as much. Now it has a different pattern and the finish is satin, so it just reflects the light, but it's not going to reflect the image. So that has pleased me. From last generation, I also didn't like the design of the camera module. Now they've changed this design, but I still don't like it for some strange reason. I get the feeling that it has a very generic design in this part, but that's a matter of personal taste. In a moment, we look at the differences between one generation and another so that you are aware of the differences. And but for now, let's focus directly on this phone. Let's turn it on while we see what else comes in the box. And as you can see, it comes with these quick start guides, which are simply known as the paper slips of a lifetime. We're not going to pay much attention to them. Next, we come across this tool, which is for removing the tray to insert the SIM card. An obviously mandatory addition, but something that is very interesting is this case because it has a very particular design. It comes with some reliefs that generate different waves of illumination and image. So it's a case with a different design, although it's transparent and it's probably going to turn a little yellow over time. So I didn't like the fact that it's transparent so much, but it does give it a very different touch with this relief. Let's see how it looks on. Paired with the cell phone pattern, it looks interesting. I don't know if I like it, but it looks different. Let's continue to see what else is in the box here. And we come across the charger and the USB-A to USB-C cable. The charger is a bit large, but it has evolved to 80 watts of charging power. The charger definitely does not disappoint. In fact, simply including the charger in the box is already an advantage in this price range, where some manufacturers are no longer including this accessory. So this is very good news, something I definitely did like. As you know, you need to use the original charger if you want to enjoy the fastest charging possible. It's a pretty thick cable. If you use thinner cables, you're not going to get fast charging. So we're going to put all of this stuff that came in the box away, and then we're going to take a look at the phone. I've already got the device set up and in my hands here, so we can go over the specs. So let's get to know it. It's 7.57 millimeters thick and weighs 177 grams. Here, definitely that OPPO has put a lot of emphasis and a lot of effort into making an extremely thin and extremely light device. It is probably among the thinnest and lightest devices this year, so that will be one of its main features. Although probably to achieve lower weight and lower thickness, they have made some sacrifices. In a moment, I will tell you more. The level of resistance comes with Gorilla Glass 7Y. A somewhat strange addition because Gorilla Glass 6 never existed. Gorilla Glass 7 never existed either, so it is a renewal, nothing more. But it is appreciated that it does come with some Gorilla Glass protection. However, at this price point, I believe there are already several manufacturers that incorporate Gorilla Glass Victus, which would be a higher level of protection. Also, it does not have any level of water resistance. I think that can also play against it at this high price at which it was launched, although it will obviously withstand simple splashes. That's something OPPO tests on all of its devices, but you can't submerge it. It also has a fairly sophisticated structure on the inside to try to absorb shock. And the frames are made of an alloy that can also become tough. So even though they look like simple plastic frames, it looks like they will be able to give a good level of resistance against a fall. And obviously the fact that it is a lightweight device also helps in this resistance to falls. In fact, the manufacturer points out that it has aerospace grade resistance in these frames. So that may become an element also to highlight as part of the design. And the screen has a size of 6.7 inches in its diagonal. It has full HD plus resolution. It offers us 120 Hz in its refresh rate. The touch sampling goes up to 240 Hz when you're in gaming mode. And it's an AMOLED display that's capable of going up to 1200 nits when it's under sunlight. So it's a good quality display. We couldn't complain about this screen. The device also features stereo sound with speakers below and above. The ultra volume mode says it goes up to 300%, something that I always find very funny, that somehow it does raise the gain of the sound, although it rises mostly in the mid and high frequencies. So I don't recommend using it as much. Without the ultra volume mode, either way it sounds loud and of good quality. The front camera is 32 megapixels with f2.0 aperture and autofocus. In this regard, it definitely does get some attention. Generally, in this price range, you're not going to find cameras with autofocus. And it also has a good aperture to have a good entry of light, so at least in theory, it should give us good pictures. Not only outdoors, but also indoors and at night. As always, here is a capture before taking the picture so you can see how I am in a very brightly lit environment in the back. After taking the photo, it makes for a better balance of highlights and shadows. I think it does give us good quality. And because of the autofocus, it's going to give us an excellent level of detail in the face. So in this sense, it does give us a very good experience. On the back, we will find the 8 megapixel ultra-wide camera with f2.2 aperture and fixed focus, then the 50 megapixel main camera with f1.8 aperture, autofocus and optical stabilization, and finally a 2 megapixel macro camera with f2.4 aperture and fixed focus. In this price range, this macro camera is unacceptable. Let's end this video here now. Let's go. Well, I've calmed down a little bit now, but that really pissed me off. Here are some examples. First is the 16mm ultra-wide camera. We found the quality to be good enough. I don't see that much level of detail, honestly. But I think for an ultra-wide camera, it's fine. This is the main camera. In this case, simply with the automatic mode. But I also took a picture with the high-resolution mode to see if it takes advantage of the 50 megapixels. And in this case, it seems that in some ways it does. I wouldn't say 100%. Nor does it look like an exaggeratedly detailed image. But I think it does the job. And now you're looking at a picture again with the main camera just to test a little bit of the zoom. Because at the 52mm focal length with 2x zoom, it seems to more or less preserve optical quality. And the maximum zoom is 10x. And it also has good quality. However, in the last generation, we found a telephoto lens that gave us optical zoom 2x, and so the maximum digital zoom was 20x. And it is also a device that was launched cheaper. So from my point of view, it doesn't make sense what OPPO just did. It increased the price and took away the telephoto camera and put a macro camera in its place. What is this? But before I get mad anymore, let's move on to the other pictures. This is what the macro camera is capable of giving us, which honestly isn't bad. It does give you a good level of detail, but compare it to what the main camera can give you by applying 2x zoom. And it's even better. It has better color, better depth of field. So the truth is that the macro camera for me is completely useless if the main camera with 2x zoom can give us a better result. So I was definitely disappointed with the addition of macro camera in this device. Fortunately, it still has the ability to take portraits not only from the traditional distance but also with the 52mm distance for a telephoto perspective. So despite not having a telephoto camera, it does give us this focal length available, although obviously even though it tries to keep the quality very well, it won't be the same as having 100% optical quality. Still, the portrait photos look nice to me. They don't have 100% accuracy, but in this price range, we can't get so demanding in that sense. And something curious is that this device has a feature called Perfect Photo with artificial intelligence, which, as you will notice, will improve the details of all the faces in group photographs. Usually in group photos, whoever is closer to the camera comes out well focused and the others come out a little out of focus. But thanks to this feature with OPPO's artificial intelligence, it is supposed to optimize the level of detail. Watch. This is what it looks like before applying this effect, and this is what it looks like after. I think the difference is subtle. I do not know if you can perceive it through the camera, but it does exist and allows you to raise the level of detail of these group shots a little more. In fact, OPPO claims that it also has a generative artificial intelligence eraser. So let's try to remove this object and see what the result is. It's removing it right now and it's going to fill it with anything else. So let's just wait and see. The result actually looks good. Obviously, it looks strange that it's projecting light without a lamp present, but the object removal works well, and in this case, they also include the function to remove people that have been there in your photograph and note that the detection is good. You can simply select that you want to remove those people, and again, through generative artificial intelligence, it's going to try to fill in that empty space, and it actually gives us a good result as well. In fact, it also has an application called AI Studio, where you can create interesting things both as a single person and as a group. For example, let's say it's just me. You can choose the style of photograph that it's going to generate. Let's select this one that looks like a cowboy with animation, although as you can see, it has a cost. In this case, it costs 10 gems, and I have 5,000 available. Honestly, I don't know if this function is available in Mexico because this device apparently comes from another region only as a review unit, but let's try it. For this to work, I have to upload several pictures of my face. And well, I have already added 3 photographs for my model to be generated, so we are going to generate it. Let's wait a little bit of time. It says it's estimated to take 7 seconds. It's pretty fast, honestly. Let's now wait to select the image. Well, it's actually already increased the time to 18 seconds, so we wait and I'll get back to you. And watch, here are the results. It took more or less about 40 seconds. It was relatively fast. And look at the images it generated. What do you think? It really does look interesting. Here it includes a watermark that says generated by OPPO AI Studio. Honestly, if they are charging me for these images, I would like them to come out without watermark. But this is the quality that this artificial intelligence can offer us. I really like the results. Obviously, it doesn't look like a fake photo, but you can see that it has been created through artificial intelligence, but it gives you interesting results. And in the same way, you can select some other styles. Let's select this one. Let's see, what do you think? I'm going to generate it as well, and let's wait a few seconds. And well, here are the results. Let's see, I think the result looks a little bit more fake. I think the face fit a little bit weird here, but that would be about the result you could have. Obviously, there are some models that will look better than others, but it's interesting, this feature, to generate this kind of images with artificial intelligence. And as you can see, it also supports in group, something I had not seen so far. So you just have to upload the necessary models to generate the images. The funny thing is that I can't find where to buy more gems. It just tells me how many I have spent and that's it. But as I tell you, this part might be different on units that come with domestic distribution. This one seems to be a foreign unit, but in the video review I will confirm specifically if these options are also available in Mexico. For now, you're seeing here the commander, and you know that in this case the lock screen background is always changing very randomly, and honestly it bothers me that suddenly images come out that have nothing to do. The device has the ability to record video in 4K at 30 frames per second, but with ultra wide it drops to full HD. Fortunately, the front camera also supports 4K. The battery is 5,000 milliamps and supports 80 watts charge, SuperVox 2.0. In battery, let's say that it remains in the average, but in the charging speed, as I say, there is an important evolution. You know that later on we will do a charging speed test to find out exactly how long it will take. If you haven't seen it, it has a fingerprint reader inside the screen, as well as facial recognition, but only in 2 dimensions. It comes with Android 14 and ColorOS 14.1. And one of its strongest points is that it comes with 12 gigabytes of RAM, and you can also put virtual RAM. By default, it comes on with an additional 4 gigabytes. Personally, I would disable this option because with 12 physical gigabytes, I don't understand what the need is to be integrating this kind of features. You could extend it up to another 12 virtual gigabytes. Completely unnecessary for my taste. And in storage, we find 512 gigabytes. This is definitely one of its strongest points as well. While I was very annoyed by the macro camera, here I can somehow get to forgive them. Let's just say it's up to you as a user what you want to prioritize. Fortunately, it does have some very attractive points like the storage. And in fact, just turned on the device, I marked 28.4 gigabytes used. So you have plenty of space to be able to be working with different photos and videos. And finally, the processor is the MediaTek Dimensity 7300 Energy. I honestly didn't know about this processor, so it's a variant of the Dimensity 7300. Let's test it in benchmarks. Geekbench results are as follows. 544 points on a single core. That's an exaggeratedly low score. Probably because of power management or something, it scored extremely low on single core. In multi-core, it went up a little bit, up to 2006 points. Honestly, it's still not a very attractive or powerful processor. That is, it is giving us scores very similar to the Snapdragon 695, a processor that is used in much cheaper devices than this one. In fact, it's a little bit below the Snapdragon 695. That's not to say that it's going to give you a bad experience right away. But if you're one of the most demanding, especially when it comes to gaming, it's going to fall way short. Fortunately, it has plenty of RAM, so I don't think it's going to get slow when you have a lot of apps running, but definitely that the processor is pretty weak. This is the score it gets on Antutu 712,314 points. As I tell you, it's very weak on graphics issues. In fact, the last generation scored higher in benchmarks, so we could say that the last generation has a more powerful processor. It has telephoto camera, although it has less storage, less RAM. In fact, it also feels a little bit heavier. It has slightly less charging power. The front camera had fixed focus. So let's say that yes, there is an evolution in many aspects, but there are also steps backwards in others. It's a little strange, this iteration. You tell me through the comments if you like this new generation, because in the section where they took a tremendous step backwards is in the processor. But as I tell you, a good number of people are possibly not even going to notice that it's a pretty weak processor compared to its price. However, the more demanding ones will definitely be disappointed in this processor. But for now, it has been a first unboxing video and first impressions. Soon we will have the review where we will put this device to the test. We will see how your photos come out, how long it takes to load, how it records video, how powerful it can be in games and other things. So don't miss the video review that we will be publishing soon. I hope you liked this video. If you did, you know you can let us know, and we'll see you next time.